If you've had some potted bulbs in the house this Christmas, the chances are by now they're going over. They do very quickly in the house because it's warm, you've got central heating on, so the flower stalks get elongated and the plants go over. So if you've got a amaryllis or hippeastrum that looks a little bit like this one, then it's time to carry it on to the next stage. So the first thing we need to do is, as soon as the flower stalk finishes, we can cut that off completely. So it's simply cut it back as close to the bulb as possible, and that can then be disposed of. So that's done its thing for this year, we can get rid of that. And we're now left with some very sorry looking foliage, and this amaryllis has been in a house where it's been quite dark, so as a result the foliage is very pale and it's too long, but we need to keep that on the plant or on the bulb for as long as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick a bamboo cane in at the side of it, and I'm going to tie the foliage loosely to the cane, and that way it won't snap and fall over. Because what we've got to try and do now is to build up the bulb as much as we can. The bulb has used all its energy to produce that tall flower spike, and what we need to do is to encourage it to produce even more foliage. The more foliage it produces, the bigger the bulb will get and the better the flower will be next year. So at this stage, what I would do with this is to either put it on a cool windowsill in the house, or if you've got a conservatory or a greenhouse, it can go in there, and we let the foliage grow for 3, 6 or even longer months until it naturally dies down. In the meantime, what we've got to do also is keep it watered, and what I do now to build it up is to put some liquid fertiliser in the watering can, and we can keep that watered and keep it going for months to go. So that can now go out of the way, and we'll look after that. This is another very popular flowering bulb for this time of the year. It's a hyacinth, and as you can see, it's gone over now, the flowers have flopped over. So again, what I'm going to do with these is to take off these flower stalks, just simply snap them off, and that leaves me with the pot of 3 bulbs in there, and they can go in the garden. Now this year, these flowered for Christmas. They were prepared bulbs that were forced into early flower, but when we plant these back in the garden, they'll flower at their normal time, which is spring. They won't flower this year because they've already flowered, so we're looking at flowers for spring 2008. So what I'm going to do with these now is put these outside, somewhere fairly sheltered against the south-facing wall. They are hardy, and I'm going to let them die down. And as soon as they start to die down, we'll plant them in the garden. But the secret to remember is when you plant them in the garden, when they're grown in pots, the bulbs are kept on the surface of the compost. When we plant these in the garden, we want to plant them so that the bulbs have got 3 or 4 inches of soil above them, so they've got to be quite deep. That way they'll grow next spring and flower again for us.